Dear brothers, in order to start a debate, I invite to the podium Nicolas Maduro Moros to start this debate. Dear comrade and President Miguel Díaz-Canel, people of Cuba, we ratify our greeting of real brotherhood, deep brotherhood, in the union of our principles and future dreams. Also to the General Raúl Castro Ruz, we also express our greetings and our firm ideas of solidarity. Prime ministers, chancellors, heads of delegations, dear Secretary of the Organizations of States of ALBA, Mr. Sacha Llorente, our greeting from the Republic of Venezuela. We really thank all the samples of solidarity and greetings that our delegation has received as a result of this summit. This is the 20th of the ordinary summits. To celebrate the 17th anniversary already of the foundation of what in its birth in 2004 was an alternative to neoliberalism and the attempt to colonize our countries, our nations, with what was known as a free trade agreement. We cannot forget the struggles in our streets by our people, by unions, against the pretension of erasing all the working rights of our people. So it's 17 years. Time goes by, and perhaps we forget things. There's a generation coming, 2 generations appearing, and perhaps they forget the way it was pretended since 1994. Actually, 1994, they tried to impose, they tried to uniform the economies in our nations. That's the reason why we were born 17 years ago. We were created 17 years ago. December 2004. We were celebrating 10 years of the first meeting between Commander Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez. It was December of 1994 when that commander, who was barely 40 years old, popular hero from Venezuela, Bolivarian leader, loved by the humble people, took a plane in Caracas and landed in Havana to give that big hug And with that hug, we say, we keep saying that that was the birth of the progressive wave that was dividing Latin America and the Caribbean, and that was the appearance of the organization. This is the way some historians call it. And they say that the big historical moments start coup of chance, maybe invisible. It seems like something invisible for most humans. So it may appear as something casual. So that was what happened on December 13, 14, and 15. And in a revolution that was in the midst of that revolution in Cuba, that was going through the special period nobody wants to talk about. So that was the presence of that Bolivarian hurricane called Hugo Chavez, and they both met in this space. And with that hug, we saw the appearance of these new times of articulation, renovation, shared love, struggle, battles, and a number of victories that have been accumulated over these years. There is a witness here who is Daniel Ortega, who coincided in Havana by chance. By chance, he was in Havana for those days of 1994. In Miami, we also saw at that time an area of free trade. Beautiful words, lovely words that are used to fool, to deceive the worst colonizing projects. Free trade agreement, they called it. But everybody is with freedom, but it wasn't precisely freedom what they pretended in those agreements of new colonialism. Those times justify the processes and projects that 17 years ago started. ALBA, without a doubt, has been our space. The Bolivarian Alliance for the people of our Americas is our space, is our house. Here we're brothers, face to face. There are no powerful countries here that dominate, that blackmail, that menace, and there are no weak nations here that are menaced. We are all equal here because ALBA is the house of the equals, the house of brotherhood, the house of big dreams. It has been like that during the pre-pandemic stage. We could say somehow. We could see somehow. So we can call a pandemic of coronavirus before and after. That was expressed by Díaz-Canel. So both commanders, Chavez and Castro, were the ones that founded and accelerated the projects for public education of most in Latin America and the Caribbean. To take the family physician, the family doctor, to the neighborhood and to the countryside. To take the missions, the miracle mission to the most humbled of the humbles in the countries, in the countrysides and cities in our nations. They were the ones that foresaw and created Petrocaribe that will be back at some point. Do not doubt it. Petrocaribe will return, do not doubt that, and it will be stronger. This has been a space not only to share a geopolitical vision of the world, not only to fight and hope for a pluripolar world, a world of balance without empires. It has not only been space to dream in a world that we can see in the horizon, the 21st century, a world without colonialism or neocolonialism, a world of free nations, free countries, integrated, a world of peace without wars, without imperialistic wars, without threats of wars or the use of force against the countries. Alba has been a house to dream about big projects and to raise the voice of our countries, of our peoples, and that together that voice be felt in the organizations of the United Nations, as has happened, and also in the spaces where the survival of the human species has been debated and the struggle against the climatic change. Alba has been together, has been strong, and has had its own voice, and we have been able to make ourselves be respected. In a world where cowards are not respected, in a world where the weak are not respected, Alba has been able to be respected and strengthened in its power of ideas, as Fidel used to say in his philosophy of the battle of ideas, with a power of proposals in spaces of the movements, of the non-aligned movements, of the group of 77 plus China, without a doubt, as in the spaces, multilateral spaces, where we can best see a more centrical world that is still full of conflict, tensions, and difficulties. The pre-pandemic world, in our house of Alba, we have been able to go to concrete actions for the joy of our people. We have been able, as Alba, we've been able to put together our professionals, our educators, our health specialists, to go to the most remote areas and to face huge crises like the crisis in Antigua and Barbuda. Who arrived there first? It was Alba. Who arrived first in Saint Vincent? Who arrived there first? Alba, with the flag, with a multicolor flag, and landed there with love, with our truth. So this is why it is so important to strengthen our house, our common space, to valorate our common space. This year, we have made a number of important minister councils made up of chancellors economic council with the participation of ministries of economy and the central banks, the social council, to review all the projects. Here in the central declaration that has been worked by our government, we are able to see part of the proposals that have appeared in the ministerial councils. Perhaps this is in Latin America, in the Caribbean, the only mechanism of integration, multilateral, that has a virtue of grouping together ministers to build a common vision of our countries and our continents. We have moved ahead. Now we need to move further ahead. If this period of 17 years was good, with a number of achievements that show that we can move ahead, and that prove that it was necessary, the mechanism, and that prove that together we can move on to action, common action, with our people and the rest of the peoples in Latin America. Now we need to give a step forward, and this is the call that Venezuela is pretending to ratify here. I mean, the need for our governments to give a step forward for joint action and for a program of joint action. That's what we are presenting. This is a program or a plan of action post-pandemic 2022 strategic decision. Very interesting. Very interesting. President of Bolivia, Daniel Ortega, Ralph Diaz-Canel, comrades, friends. It's important that presidents and prime ministers and governments, it is important that we place action plan together with our portfolio of daily decision. And it is important that we give this document the top strategic importance for the construction of real mechanism of togetherness among our people. There are priorities. There are projects that we can take and retake. In the world of pandemic or post-pandemic, and one of the vital aspects is health, public health. Cuba has proven so. And I truly believe that what they have done is admirable, but their capacity of resistance is also admirable. Capacities created by Fidel Castro and proved by 5 vaccines that Cuba has given to the people, and I demand an applause for the Cubans and for the scientists, for the Cuban scientists and doctors. So that shows how much we can do, how much we can achieve to protect our peoples. The pandemic is not over. Every time there's a new variant, so the stock markets fall down. When Omicron appeared a month ago, oil went down from $80 a barrel to $56. So the stock markets fall down. And you wonder, sometimes you wonder if these variants appear for the manipulation. And we wonder we wonder if the important world labs use some of these variants to increase their incomes. We wonder to manipulate public opinion. We wonder to manipulate the prices of commodity, among them oil. Yeah, you have the right to wonder, given the way that the last variant has been used. But according to the latest report, it appears to be more contagious but less deadly. So health is an important aspect, preventive aspect through vaccines in the world post-pandemic, treatments, the decisions that we took a year ago was very successful. When we declare ourselves in emergency and we struggle together for solidarity, and also for peoples in the ALBA do not lack the presence of medications and vaccines, education, health. We have continued with those. But, Mr. President, I'd like to continue insisting that it is important to maintain coordination in social aspects and also in political aspects and diplomatics. It is always, absolutely, always indispensable to maintain coordination in the big topics of our countries. This is not news for anybody. The intrigue, that the North American empire, on a daily basis through its lobbies and influence, pretends to insert against the union of our people, of our country, to try to show the world upside down, as Eduardo Galeano used to say. They attack the state of Bolivia, and they try to present Luis Arce as a person that has come to destabilize. And so when they are the ones that try to destabilize the country, and they try to fool our nations, and they try to make us abandon Luis Arce. And this is just an example of many that we can place on this table. But fortunately, Bolivia and Lucio have never been alone, and they have had a tremendous victory in this year 2021. The same against Cuba. They strengthened the blockade against Cuba. They deploy an atrocious campaign of millions of dollars by the media, as we all know. Ramonet has said it. Social media today are the dominating means of communication. It's one of the main components of the new times that we are living. And they attack with millions of dollars against the people of Cuba, try to destabilize Cuba, that try to bring violence. But the Cuban people has given a lesson of dignities and awareness to the empire. Today, the people of Cuba is in the midst of a rebirth of work, culture, nation. Cuba is alive, and Cuba has been born again. The same strategy of sanctions, campaigns has happened against the people of Sandino, the people of Nicaragua. They prepared plans to create violence in Nicaragua. So as they did in April 2019, as they did in Venezuela from April to July 2017, what it was called as guarimbas, as they did in Bolivia itself in the very 2019, to cause a coup d'etat against our brother from the south, Evo Morales Aima. So the imperialism is not playing. They go face to face. And the government of Nicaragua with Daniel Ortega, they managed with time to stop a terrorist violence campaign against the society in Nicaragua. Mm-hmm. We have to face terrorists financed by themselves and justice, so they express two more values. So for them, the people of Nicaragua called for elections, and people participated massively, and they provided an important victory to Commander Daniel Ortega. Do not doubt this. Do not let yourself be fooled with intrigues against Nicaragua. This is the call that Venezuela does. This is the call that we make in this house of brothers. So holding hands, like the song of Jose Luis Rodriguez, holding hands with the heart, we say this: Nicaragua deserves love, support, and solidarity. Only you need to review the numbers, the statistics. Commander Daniel Ortega won with 75% of votes. But there's a higher number. We all know this. Poll surveys, percentages, everybody knows that. We all know how to read polls. Daniel Ortega won with 50% of the entire electoral ballot of Nicaragua. I ask any president in Europe that does not go beyond 15-18%, so they cannot question the elections in Nicaragua. We must demand respect for our political processes. We cannot let our countries and nations be divided. We must build and rebuild every minute and second the union of our people. It's important that we are passionate about political topics. We're always passionate about geopolitical issues, social issues. The most important, I believe, and with this I'm going to finish this intervention. So I am the first, I can abuse of this fact, but from here on you cannot take any more than 10 minutes. I firmly believe, Comrade Diaz-Canel, among ourselves, the one that knows the most in a more genial way is President Lucio. He's very good for economy. Real, study, knowledgeable, good leader of the economy. I would ask him, but also presidents and prime minister and general secretary of ALBA, Llorente, I would ask to make a higher effort for the articulation of an integrating plan of economic development, commercial, financial, monetary, of the countries belonging to ALBA. ALBA has how to do that. We have an experience earned. We have had projects like the Bank of ALBA, and specialists in the world used to say that our bank is a Ferrari. And who knows better than President Lucio? And many more can be given by other presidents and the Monetary Council of ALBA. And we have the currency called Sucre that can be granted a virtual nature today with the advances we have. Bank, Monetary Council, common currency, and we can move ahead a little bit more in the agreements we have internally as a powerful trade and investment, new investment. We can go together to produce food. We can go together to produce oil, gas, lithium, to produce everything our countries need. This seems like a utopia. It's a utopia, but it's a concrete utopia. It can be done. It's a center of the new epoch, and the success of our projects is that we have a common path, economic path, not everyone isolated as we continue today. One sees the whole Asian region, Pacific region that is getting together, integrating. You see the European Union with 30 years of togetherness in economic integration. But you look at Latin America and the Caribbean, everyone is isolated and separated. And despite the fact that we talk about being together, in spite of the fact that we know that separated we are weak and that no one will achieve development on its own, despite the fact that we know this, and despite the fact that we've heard this from Fidel and Chavez and our leaders, despite all that, everyone continues economically isolated. We propose, Mr. Diaz-Canel, we propose a firm union, and the first ministers and presidents have, together with our portfolio, a number of measures to move ahead in an integration, economic integration, the creation of wealth. I hear this from Raúl. You cannot distribute what we do not have. To distribute, we need to produce wealth. So we need to produce food, services, goods. We can do that. And I ask this from the General Secretary and the State of Bolivia. I propose that we concentrate efforts on this. and the economic development. Thank you for your patience, Mr. President. Thank you for being here in the House of Alba, the House of Dreams.